Welcome to the Jersey Devils Brocast, brought to you by Radio Garden State. I'm Papa Reese Van Riper, and I'm here with my brother Jim.
Buddy, how you doing tonight?
Good, how about you?
I'm great. I just wanted to say thanks to Mike at Radio Garden State for giving us the opportunity. For the Devils fans listening out there, this is going to be a little different than some of the other Devils shows and podcasts. We're going to be talking Devils hockey, doing some local North Jersey, South Jersey, I guess Central Jersey, if you believe there's a Central Jersey hockey.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's every North, South, and Central. And playing some of the best music on Radio Garden State. So let's get into it.
Absolutely. Thanks again to Mike, and thanks for Chris for helping us with some of the issues we were having earlier. I hope you can hear us loud and clear. And let's talk some puck. Hockey is awesome, and Devils just came out of an okay weekend. Okay, half and half. Mm-hmm. Looks like it took, or it looks like Jack Hughes has finally woken up after his slumber. Mm-hmm. It only took him 50 minutes of play with the Stars on Saturday to score a goal.
Turn it on a little bit.
Yeah, turn it on. Yeah. But you can't wait till 10 minutes left in the game to score.
Yeah, well, they I felt like this weekend epitomized the Devils' last 2.5 months. Good game, bad game, played kind of well, not well enough to win.
Right.
They came out of the gate against the Stars on Saturday. They played pretty well those first 10 minutes. But
absolutely.
Kind of an egregious mistake by Nemec, getting pulled out of position. Leaving Dadonov wide open there to score a goal, and even Danico said on the broadcast, those are the mistakes you can't play in your defensive zone against a cup contender like Dallas.
And Dano knows.
He knows a little bit about playing defense.
Just a little.
A little bit. And, Salvador said the same thing during the intermission breaks and when they had a chance to talk to him, and that was kind of the deal on Saturday. The Devils played pretty well overall, but they shot themselves in the foot a few times. Dallas took advantage of the opportunities that were given to them. Devils played a little bit of comeback hockey. Hughes cut it down with 2-1, and then Dallas, of course, scored right after. And
absolutely.
3-2, and then Timo gets stuffed at the blue.
What I did like to see was the Devils were applying pressure the entire game.
Yeah.
That was something we haven't seen in like a couple months, like that they kept on applying pressure. The chances that they got weren't that great. They're putting puck on the neck, but you need to put puck, behind the goal.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, they came out with, Hughes said in the postgame, came out with some pop. They were skating well. They got a lot of opportunities, but they just couldn't get the job done. Against Dallas, a Pete DeBoer team who's familiar to Devils fans. Mm-hmm. They're going to play good defense. They're not going to make a lot of mistakes. But those are the games that worry me a little bit with the Devils because you have to beat a team like Dallas. That's playoff hockey.
That is playoff hockey.
Nashville the next day, they look great, but Nashville's been terrible this year.
Right.
It's these teams like Dallas that you need to beat a team like Dallas if you're going to go far in the playoffs. Dallas plays a similar style in a way to Carolina. They're not going to give you a lot. They get timely goal scoring. They have a lot of just really good two-way players. And, that's kind of the worry. It seemed like Saturday, that's like Devils against teams like that. That's been the result.
Well, also, another thing is penalties. We took I feel like that penalty again, like just coming out of Four Nations, they let the boys play.
Yes,
you know what I mean? With that penalty with Dylan, like they really shouldn't have called that. I know Dano said that over and over. Yeah. And if you're gonna call a penalty like that, like right before they scored the goal, the Dallas. There was like a hit on Nico. That was totally interference. Yeah. He didn't have the puck. Puck was nowhere near him. They hit him. Offenders open. Boom. It goes in the back.
Yeah, and that's that again. There was a little inconsistency in the officiating in the first period. But again, that's going to happen. And coming to playoffs, it always seems that's the case. Like the refs will let the boys play a little bit, and then out of nowhere they start calling a tight game. It's like, well, where did this happen?
Right.
You got to still. The Devils have one of the best penalty kills in the game. And if that's the case, then it's got to come through.
Talk about penalty kills. It really came through with Nashville the other day.
100%. Yeah, and then the next day was a little different because now you go Nashville. They tried to stack up in the offseason to get Stamkos in March or so. They signed Saros to the long-term deal, though he didn't play on Sunday.
Right.
But then the Devils came into Nashville. They played a good game. They did make some mistakes. Nico Dawes bailed them out a few times.
Oh, Nico was like Jaws Dawes, like that we've been seeing in the memes.
He was absolutely on fire, and that's if he can get consistent, I think he's a really good 1B guy for you down the road. But now Nashville, they went in, weak teams that's been struggling all year, and Devils took care of business, but now it's these teams like Dallas that have been problems. Like the Devils beat Montreal 2 or 3 times in the last 2 months. It's like, well, everybody's beating Montreal right now. You got to go beat the Vegas Golden Knights. You got to go beat the Dallas Stars. You have to go beat the best teams in the league because that's the next step for the Devils.
It's cool that the Devils have that streak that they don't let Montreal win at all
ever,
yeah. Period.
Yeah, it's supposed
it's like
to
we
be
took
like
Marty, and you're never going to get any
the
wins.
capital of hockey, and we go up there. We took the best goalie from Quebec ever. Sorry, Patrick Roy.
Yeah.
And Jacques Plante is Marty Brodeur.
Yep.
And they go up to Montreal, and they always take care of business. But yeah, you got to beat these good teams. And like the culture of the Devils back in the day was, this was the big test. And it's a failure if you don't beat them. Because now if you're looking at yourself as a cup contender and you're looking at yourself as a team that can go deep in the playoffs, Dallas, those are the teams that you got to beat. So this weekend really epitomized the last 2.5 months. Really since the end of December. They've been playing 500 hockey. Win, loss, win 2, lose 2.
Right.
Hopefully this game against Nashville starts getting things going a little bit. Because Hughes looks on fire.
Yeah.
He looks great.
Hughes looks great. Palat looked good. Hamilton and was it Hamilton and Palat? They got was it
500 points.
They got 500 points in the same play. I heard that Hamilton gave Palat the puck because he scored the goal. He's just happy to be there. Mm-hmm. Dougie looked great with that shirt off.
I know that was very surprising.
I really enjoyed that.
I started blushing. When
I was like, oh my god, look at that! I'm like, I got a body like that somewhere. It's hiding
under all of this mess. I have a body like Dougie Hamilton.
Well, Dougie Hamilton really came through, and he had been in a little bit of like a, I feel like everybody kind of got like, not tired, but they fall asleep. The season's so long. Mm-hmm. The Devils came out firing, like we said on our first, they just like fell off a little bit. Everybody got a little too comfortable in their britches, a little light in their loafers, But I'm liking what I'm seeing now from the boys.
Yeah, and Dougie Hamilton, back in 23 when they had one of their best regular seasons ever, I think that was he had the second most points by defenseman in Devils history in a season, second behind Stevens, who did it in 94.
Right.
When he's on, Hamilton is one of the best offensive defensemen in the game. I think that takes some pressure off of Luke Hughes then, who is turning into, I think, will be an absolute stud. Yeah. But now when Dougie is really finding himself really doing well in that role as your best offensive defenseman, which is what he was signed to be, that is a game changer for this team. They missed him a lot last year. He only played 20 games last year. That's a big reason why they didn't do well last year.
He was injured, yeah.
He's a catalyst for them. When he's going, a lot of other things go well. He's distributing the puck to the guys up front. He
really does have a great eye. That's something I picked up on the last Nashville game. Like, he's always there. Like, even if, like, it's fast, like, something bounces off, he's passing it off somewhere quick, boom.
An incredibly accurate shot. His goal was ridiculous. I mean, that was like a 2-inch hole right up, up over the shoulder.
Palat's goal was beautiful because Hamilton took it from the point. Yeah. And Hughes, boop, and then boom. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and Palat's a guy, if he gets going, that's good news. You're paying him a lot of money. He's had a bit of a rough go in the regular season, but what we saw from him in the playoffs 2 years ago, that's what you're paying him to be. He's kind of like the Claude Lemieux without the attitude.
Right.
He's supposed to be a playoff performer, that veteran player who's won cups, who's been on good teams, bringing that winning culture into the Devils locker room. I think he's going to be around. It's not a contract that's exactly tradable, but if he can get going playing with Hughes and Bratt, that solves a lot of problems.
And I feel like they corrected a lot of what they did wrong in that Dallas game with Nashville. I mean, it's an easier opponent, but at the same time, their penalty kill was flawless. Like, they were really good. Dawes stood on his head, like I was saying. Even Allen stood on his head for the Dallas game. Yep. But I mean, man, that's the game you want to see. That's the puck play you want to see. That's how it should be.
Yeah, that's the type of performance. But again, they did make some mistakes against Nashville that I think if that was against Vegas, like remember that game like 3 weeks ago now with the Four Nations, everything feels like a year ago.
Exactly.
But where they were just totally outclassed, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like they made some mistakes, but against Nashville, you can get away with it. Vegas and the Stars, you can't.
You know what else you can't get away from sometimes? Danger. Like that Big Black Alligator by Reese Van Riper. Here we go. How we doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Jersey Devils Brocast. I'm here with my buddy Jim, but let me tell you about the music that you just heard. You just heard Black Alligator by Reese Van Riper off Psychopaths, off their triple album Sinners, Saints, and Psychopaths. If you want to catch Reese Van Riper, you can do so on Thursday, February 27th at 9 p.m. with DJ April. It's the launch of 86th Magazine, and it's at Montclair, New Jersey at Tierney's Tavern. You know anything about Reese Van Riper?
A little bit. They have a really cute drummer.
Oh, I've heard that too.
Yeah.
Real cute guy. They have the album coming out called American Dream, The American Dream, on July 4th off Mint 400 Records. They're recording at Backroom Studios in Rockaway with Kevin and Trajan. The second song you heard there was You're Not Right by Tiny Ships off their album Peak. Now, cool thing about Tiny Ships is that they're actually playing the Prudential Center on April 13th against the Islanders at 1 p.m.
Awesome.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And they're playing both intermissions, which is a really cool part.
Mm-hmm.
The last song that you heard is This Could Be Us by Newark's own Randy Hayes Trio off of Right Now. Funny fact about Randy Hayes Trio is that Randy Hayes used to play with Reese Van Riper for a couple of years there. Yeah. He's on one of the albums called Le Fin du Monde. Actually, the album's called For Love for Murder, but the song that he rocks on is Le Fin du Monde. And we're coming out of the break, and one of the new things that we would like to do on this brand new show is break down some of the words that you may have never heard before when you're watching hockey. You may see some stuff, hear some stuff, but we're going to call it puck talk. This is puck talk, baby. So when you hear icing, right? Mm-hmm. People are like, icing. They see like someone hit it from the other end, it goes to the end, and they said, why do they blow the whistle? You know? An icing occurs when a player shoots the puck over the red line and it passes the opposing team's goal line without scoring, right? Mm-hmm. And, you know, icing is something still that can get a little confusing to people. So how is icing called? A lineman calls icing when the conditions are met that I just told you. And why is icing sometimes not called? And we're seeing that too sometimes. Either someone hits it right there on the blue line, you know, someone hits it at the face-off line.
Yeah,
you
so
know?
like a deflection over there by the red line. Like if I'm throwing it out of my zone, the other team deflects it, but it goes down into their end. That's now not icing. It's been negated.
Another time is if the opposing goalie leaves the crease and plays the puck, obviously. If the linesman believes that an opposing player could have played the puck. You know, he's waiting back. He wants it to cross first. They'll wave off the icing.
And that's a new part of icing as well.
That is a new part of icing as well.
Hybrid icing rules. Because one of the guys, I think his name was Yanni Pitkinen.
Right.
Got, I think it was his shoulder destroyed because it used to be a race right to the end boards, right? Yeah. Which was exciting growing up.
Running
but
skating.
Playing defense, I hated that. When I knew I had a guy right on my rear end, I'm like, I'm probably going to get this first, but I might get my head shoved through the wall. It's kind of a problem. So they changed that about 10 years ago, where if the linesman believes that the defending player is definitely going to reach the puck first,
he'll wave it off.
They'll just call the icing, and
which is good. It's safer for the game, and also it keeps the game moving. You're not stopping. That was another thing when we were kids. Like it would always stop the game, and you can't move your players off the ice. You know, you just go back and forth. Another time is if the icing occurs as a result of a face-off, which is something that I didn't know actually before.
Yeah, and then also it's if you're on a penalty kill, you're allowed to ice the puck.
And also if a goal is scored, if you go into an empty net, you know. So that was puck talk. There you go. So we wanted to get into the second period here, and we wanted to talk about the Four Nations tournament that we just had.
One of the coolest things I've ever seen as a hockey fan. I know for me, I'm like one of those guys that grew up with best on best. I think some of the old school hockey fans like seeing the amateur guys. The Olympics shouldn't have the pros. I'm one of those. I've always loved it, and I thought that was the coolest thing I've seen in a long time.
I got to admit, it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, it really was.
You know, it really was fucking awesome. People are playing at their peak. Like, you have every single line of the Four Nations was a number one line for a team of the NHL.
Yeah, and you know, when you have ESPN doing segments on how the NHL just outdid the NBA, you know something weird's going on, right? Because the ESPN, it's all right now, it's all NBA.
Right.
And had PK Subban on talking about how the Four Nations just absolutely lapped the NBA All-Star Game, and how it shows how the passion and how these guys really put themselves out there in hockey, and in the NBA, not so much all the time. It's one of the coolest things I saw, and the U.S.-Canada rivalry. It's coming.
It's in full effect right now.
Yeah, next year at the Olympics, it's going to be awesome. And
when we were kids, we had a pretty good team back in the '90s.
Yeah,
but nothing compared to like what we have now. I think. I mean, it's there. I think we're getting there.
For sure. In the last 10, 15 years, like when we saw, the 2010 gold medal game, U.S. versus Canada.
Yeah.
It was like the U.S. had some good players, but clearly Canada was the better team.
Right.
The World Cup in '96 when the U.S. won, I think the U.S. had a stacked team personally. I think they're trying to do the whole story. It's like the little guy versus the big guy. U.S. had like 7 or 8 Hall of Famers on the team. That was a really good team. But the other teams the U.S. has had in the past that made it that far, it was a little bit of an underdog story. That's not the case anymore. Last 10, 15 years, for anyone that pays attention to World Junior Championships and these kids coming up from college,
Yep.
now the Americans, we have guys at the top 10 to draft every year. Now we have our own high-end franchise caliber players, and many of them, not just 1 or 2, no, like 5 or 6 guys. Austin Matthews, Jack Eichel, Jack Hughes, Kyle Connor, Quinn Hughes.
And these are draft. That hasn't happened in
This is Zach Werenski. Like, we have Connor Hellebuck. Like, this is an absolute stud team that now Canada has to prepare for us. And I thought that gold medal game, the U.S. played better. Just one mistake, and that was correct. Connor McDavid.
Right.
You left him open. But in saying that, they had
the man's a beast.
And they went, you have Mitch Marner in the corner.
Right.
Being, you had Austin Matthews and Adam Fox get drawn into the corner because normally, and every game you play against Toronto, double team Mitch Marner, make sure he doesn't get a pass out of the corner because he's one of the best passers in the game.
Yep.
In a game like this, everybody's an all-star.
Yeah.
You can't double team anybody. You have to have your head on a swivel, and Matthews moved in about 5 feet too far and opened up that hole right to McDavid, who never misses from there, and that's the way it is.
They put it home.
Silver lining, I thought the U.S. really showed they're a powerhouse now. It's Canada, U.S., and everybody else.
I agree with that. I also agree that the word on the street is people weren't really happy with how Jack was playing. Jack Hughes was playing during the Four Nations. I saw that you read up a stat that he actually did very well defensively.
Yeah, his defensive numbers actually are pretty good. I thought Hughes has played like his B game since December. And now when you're playing a regular NHL game and you can get good matchups against the third and fourth line, Jack Hughes' B game is better than 90% of the league. But now when you're in that tournament, that's the top 10% of the league. So now you're going to be exposed a little bit. I thought he made some mistakes. A few of the games he was taken out of that line late in games. They were putting Trocheck in, which hurt because he's a Ranger. And the Rangers, unfortunately, by the way, up 5-1 on the Islanders.
5-1 against the Islanders.
Really don't like that. But anyway.
But are you shocked?
Nah,
the Islanders
I know.
But something that was good out of it is that Jack Hughes got to play with players he's never played before. Bratt, too. He got to play with players that he's never played before, and they got to play at a speed that doesn't happen at this part of the NHL season.
Yeah, and
usually they have the All-Star game for the kids, like how you were saying. But, Jack Hughes with Tortorella, you know what I mean? That was something.
And I thought Hughes, too. They don't have a lot of playoff experience, him and Brad. It's only 2 years ago. Brad had that little run in 2018 when we rode Taylor Hall to the playoffs.
True.
They need more of this, and then to play around guys that have won Stanley Cups, guys that have won gold medals, playing games with a lot on the line. I think that's good for them to grow as players because that, again, like we were saying before, playing teams like the Stars, like there's different kinds of hockey. You have a regular season and the playoffs. The playoffs are a completely different animal.
Totally different.
So I think the way that they were able to play now in the Four Nations, play a style like that, I'm pretty much playoff hockey on steroids.
Exactly.
And come out of that playing a little bit better. I think that's a big plus for the Devils. They need those two to get going.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think it changes a gear, not only for Jack Hughes and Bratt, but it changes a gear for the whole season, I feel like. Because, I feel like a lot of these teams were, not in a slump, but they were, like on Xanax. They were just not moving like they should.
Dog days of the season.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this Four Nations event, though, I mean, what a brilliant idea by the NHL. Yeah. They're not always the smartest.
Yeah, and the NHL, it's
like
this awesome event that the players have been asking for years and finally do it. And they're like, oh, yes, we put together this great event. It's like the players have been asking for this since 2014. They've been dying to do this. You couldn't do the Olympics. I believe in 2020 the pros were supposed to go. Then COVID, everything got pulled out. But now we have the Olympics next year. And then in 2028, they're bringing back the World Cup of Hockey, which is going to be awesome. Now, that's more teams. I think Russia will be there. Then you have Czechia will be there and Slovakia and, really the best of the best.
Right.
I don't know if they'll do something to represent, the other European players. You have, Nico Hischier and Meyer from Switzerland. But Switzerland doesn't really have a team that's going to compete. So they might do something like that again.
Could
but
those guys, kind of like how they do with basketball, Embiid, you have from, he was going to represent
like
France.
Team Europe.
But,
Yeah,
like,
they did that.
So,
yeah.
But, like, I'm saying in, like, the Olympics, like, so Embiid, he's not born in America, but he is now an American citizen. Perhaps, like, if the Swiss, the Swiss, if, like, Nico doesn't think there's a chance of him winning gold, maybe he'll join U.S. teams since he is a citizen of the U.S.
That has happened. Brett Hull did that back in the day with the U.S. But I think in the Olympics, Switzerland will definitely be in the Olympics. I think the World Cup of Hockey.
Right.
Years ago they did. They had like Kopitar and those guys on like Team Europe because he's from Slovenia. They don't have.
So
they don't
group them all
exactly a
together.
hockey powerhouse, but to at least get these guys to represent themselves and put the best players on the ice, I think that'd be a pretty good idea.
So they group them all together. That might be a great idea too. Let's take a look here. Four Nations, right? We wish we could have seen Markstrom play. What do you think Markstrom's coming back?
I'd think within the next week.
Right.
Yeah, I think he was practicing today. He was in the net with Dawes. I think Allen had the starter's net on the other side.
Let's talk about that too. I saw some stat. I don't remember it exactly, but Nico Dawes and Allen have been really stepping up to
best
the plate.
in hockey,
right?
Since they came,
absolutely fabulous.
Very
because
clutch.
When we were at the game where Markstrom actually fell down, or got hit, we should say, and he had to leave the game,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, there it goes. There goes this whole
Yeah, I think
season.
I said, that might be the end of the year.
That might be the end of the year. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But, they really have been stepping up. They've been really doing a great job.
Yeah, Nico Dawes is a really good goalie. I think if he gets some consistency, he's going to be a 1B of the future for this team.
I really hope so. But the good news is that here at Jersey Devils Brocast, we just talked about the Four Nations, and let me tell you, the American team right now, it seems like they're on a long train. They got all these great players, and they're on a short track on the way to either a gold or a Four Nations championship if they decide to do this next year. And with that, this is Long Train, Short Track by Blam. You have to embrace it. Welcome back to Jersey Devils Brocast. What you just heard there was I'm Not Better Than Anyone by Gene Wilder's Vacation, featuring Andy Dick. That's right, the Andy Dick. Produced by Tom Lord Algie. You also begun that second intermission with Long Train, Short Track by Blam. They have a couple shows coming up. Saturday, March 15th at Airport Pub in Sussex, New Jersey for St. Patrick's Day. Everybody get ready for St. Patty's Day, Patty Eliash Day. Friday, March 28th at Pineapple Express Barbecue in Montclair. Blam will also be playing. In the middle there, you heard Groundhog Day by Guac. And they have a show on this Thursday, February 27th at Pet Shop in Jersey City, PS Wine Bar with Prop House, Indie Ivid, and Meteor Police. I'm loving these names.
Yeah.
So this is our first go at this, and we've been having a tiny bit of technical difficulties, but I think we've been doing okay. So hopefully you guys agree too. Give us a call. Because everyone has our number.
Yeah. Hopefully someday it's like WFAN. We have the same guys calling in at 9, 10 o'clock.
Absolutely.
Joe from Ronkonkoma calling in to complain.
Yeah. So we're going to be doing a segment every week, hopefully, called Ice Cold Dudes. Okay? And we had actually a fun idea since Jim knows so much. He's like an encyclopedia of the Jersey Devils.
My superpower.
Yeah, it's his superpower.
Mine only.
Mine, yeah.
Yep.
Ice Cold Dudes. We're going to let him guess which player I'm speaking of. Okay?
All right.
So right now, I'm going to give you the teams that this guy has played for.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. I'm ready.
I don't want to give too much away. Okay?
I'm excited.
You are so ready.
I'm ready.
The intensity in your
I
eyes.
am ready.
All right. So, Devils,
Okay.
obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Bruins,
Okay.
Oilers,
Okay.
Stars.
Bill Guerin.
Oh my God! That is absolutely fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Holy
You didn't even get
shit.
through all of them.
I didn't even get through all of them. I thought Pittsburgh was going to give it away.
Oh no, he won a cup in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Didn't he play in San Jose for a bit too?
Oh yeah.
Did a tryout with the Flyers before he retired.
Right.
Oh yeah, Billy Guerin.
Wow. Yeah, I was doing some reading. Like apparently, the he did great on the Bruins that 1 year.
Yep.
And then he did subpar.
Who did the Devils trade Bill Guerin for?
Ooh,
Very important player.
I don't know.
Huge player in Devils history. Huge guy. They would not have won a Stanley Cup without him.
Not Arnott.
Yep.
Oh, he went to
They traded Bill Guerin and Valeri Zelepukin for Jason Arnott.
Oh my, Valeri Zelepukin.
Yep.
Holy
I remember
shit.
going to, I think it was a Devils playoff game in '98.
Right.
My dad, myself, and my buddy and his dad I played hockey with, they had season tickets.
Right.
And that was Devils Senators in '98. This is my superpower.
This is really your superpower.
And
I
remember
this
lady behind me just totally crapping on Jason Arnott the entire game. And I'm like,
Really?
oh, wow, this guy sucks. We traded Bill Guerin for him. Next year was the beginning of the A-line in '99. They started that later in the season, and the rest is history.
Oh my, Jason Arnott.
Jason
Oh my God.
Arnott, game-winning overtime
He may
goal.
be coming up on this Ice Cold Dudes on the Jersey Devils Brocast.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great segment.
Yep.
So what do we got coming up for the Devils, actually?
Well, big game coming up tomorrow against Colorado. Colorado Devils, I think, are kind of built in a fairly similar fashion. Colorado's a little top-heavy. Nathan McKinnon's one of the best players in the game. Kel McCarr is just, the second coming of Bobby Orr. And Mackenzie Blackwood is in net for Colorado. And you know what happens when the Devils play Mackenzie Blackwood?
Yeah, we choke for some reason.
And he'll
never,
stop 40 shots. He'll look like Marty Brodeur. They shut the Devils out, and that's the
Why
end of
did
it.
they get rid of this guy?
Yeah,
Because he fucking sucked.
He kind of sucked for the
I
Devils.
was so fucking pissed off when we had him in net all the time. I was like, can we please find a good goalie?
And I saw
and then
him,
he goes away, and now he's Marty Brodeur.
And I saw him when he was with the Adirondack Thunder. My wife and I went up upstate New York, skied for the day, went and saw a Thunder game down in Glens Falls, which if you're up there right now, it's a great place to go see a hockey game. And there's Mackenzie Blackwood. I remember telling her, oh, this kid's a stud. He's second-round pick for the Devils. He's going to be like the goalie of the future. You're watching someone who's going to be like a really important player for the Devils. He had a good first season, and then he got hurt, and it was just never the same. But I think he also epitomizes goaltenders nowadays. You know, it's like these journeyman guys. Like Markstrom was terrible in Florida, and then all of a sudden turned it on with Vancouver and Calgary, and that's just the way it is now. So he's kind of like that typical talented young goalie that needed a few chances, and now he's in Colorado. But a big test against Colorado, kind of like we said. This is a team, Devils want to win a cup. You got to win tomorrow night.
Absolutely.
And I think the Devils are a better team than Colorado. I think they're a deeper team. Looking at Colorado's line right now, their first line is stacked. You got Nathan McKinnon with Marty Nietzsche, who they just got in a Rantanen trade.
Great.
And Arturi Lehkonen. And then after that, I mean, it's not a whole lot going on.
Yeah.
They got a lot of injuries. Cale Makar in his own right and McKinnon in his own right could just beat you on their own. It's certainly not going to be an easy game. But if you can contain those guys a little bit, not let them go wild.
And they haven't been doing too good.
Chances.
Avalanche actually lost to the Predators, and then we destroyed them. So, But they are a team that just lost 2 games, right? You said they lost the other game.
Yep.
So they're a team that just lost 2 games in a row. So they're going to want to turn it on and not go for a slide on 3.
Absolutely.
Because, we lost to the Dallas Stars, one of the best teams in hockey.
Yeah.
And then we turned it back on. But 2 games, then you get desperation mode, and they may be laying bodies.
Could be a good matchup because special teams for Colorado has not been terrible, but not great. They're fairly mediocre.
Right.
So with a good power play, good penalty kill for New Jersey, that might be a good matchup.
Are they good on the kill?
They're 13th on the penalty kill. So they're kind of mediocre. Not terrible, but not great. Their power play, you'd think with McKinnon and Makar, they'd be top of the league. They're 19th.
Really?
Yeah, so that's been a problem. And that's something that the Devils, I think, could take advantage of, being that special teams has been their bread and butter for most of the season.
And the way that the kill looked the other night against Nashville, that was something else. Because I love seeing that because you don't see that all the time. Sometimes when you take the penalty, you're like, oh, fuck, here it comes. Like for the game that we actually played, Reese Van Riper played in November against the Capitals, we took so many stupid penalties and it killed us. It buried us.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that the kill is happening. The back checking, and also now we're forechecking, and I feel like the Four Nations also created that, like a little bit more intensity coming on with the Devils.
And with the penalty kill, it's sort of like what Coach Sullivan said from the Four Nations for USA. It's aggressive patience. Is when you have the chance to get the puck and get it out, you have to do it, and you have to do it hard. And a penalty kill is also a really good way for a team to, really kill momentum for your opposing team. Now they think they can get on the board. It can go either way. A power play could really work for you, or if you go out there and throw out a dud, that could just take the air out of the balloon. You have a good penalty kill, you can really do that. And the Devils, I believe their penalty kill is third in the league right now. They are third in their penalty kill. New Jersey Devils are third with their power play. They have really good special teams. That's like 5-on-5 is the issue. Their special teams have been great, elite. Elite. They're better in some of the best teams in hockey there. It's 5-on-5. Next week, I think we'll be talking about trade deadline stuff and how to fix that. But that's been the weakness. But even against a team like Colorado, the Devils are deeper than Colorado. Like, I like the Devils' second line against Colorado's second line. You got Casey Middlestat, Jonathan Drouin, and Juuso Parssinen. Isn't exactly. Then our old friend Miles Wood on the third line. I miss Miles. He was a good, fun player to watch. But they're not exact Ross Colton, by the way, Jersey kid. He's playing for Colorado. I think
we're 2 points up from Avalanche right now.
Yeah, and
we were tied going into that Nashville game.
Yeah, and I think right now, it looks like they won the Rantanen trade. They got Marty Nietzsche, who's been on fire for them. He's been great, and Rantanen in Carolina. Now the rumor is Carolina's looking to trade him.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how you get a guy and give up all of that, and then 3 weeks later looking to move him. But Nietzsche is fitting really well with McKinnon. Their top line, if you can contain it a little bit, they're gonna have their chances. You have Nathan McKinnon on the ice. He's already a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best players in the game. We saw that in the Four Nations. He was one of the best players in the tournament. But he's you can contain him in Makar, which is very difficult. But if you want to win a cup, you got to know how to do that. And the Devils back in the day, this was a game the Devils would eat this team alive with Stevens and with especially my favorite team in 2000. You have Stevens, Rafalski, Niedermeyer, Danico. This is the games the Devils would almost always win because now you can shut down McKinnon,
Rafalski.
shut down Makar, score your 2-3 goals, and move on. Like the Devils have to learn how to play that kind of hockey right now. They're going to have a test tomorrow night in Denver.
We're going to be having a lot of segments coming up as we, gain our ice legs, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say sea legs, but ice legs or streaming legs.
Yep.
One of them is we're going to take a look back at memory lane every week and talk about some of our favorite Devils.
Another superpower of mine.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Ice Cold Dudes is going to be a great segment because that was fantastic.
Yep.
I didn't even get to say Sharks, Islanders, any of these teams. I was like, he's going to get it after like 3 or 4. And that was insane.
I know.
I have to say, that's really impressive.
I know.
I was going to be, if he doesn't get it, I'm going to say he was a right winger.
Yeah. He was a right winger, played in 95.
Yeah. But
just the
another
GM
great
of the US
thing
team.
about Billy Guerin is that he was the
General manager
of the Four Nations USA team.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where is Billy Guerin even from?
I don't know, but right now he's the general manager for the Minnesota Wild also. Kind of part of that whole, it's kind of funny now seeing these guys that I grew up watching, and now they're older guys that are general managers.
Right.
No, he's been general manager of the Minnesota Wild. Seems to be doing a pretty solid job over there.
He's from Massachusetts, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Bill Guerin, interesting player. I think it was in Dallas. He slashed his teammate in the head in practice. That video's on YouTube.
Wow.
Yeah. Billy Guerin was a hell of a player for the Devils. He was there for a while, big part of 95, scored some big goals.
Absolutely.
I remember Gary Thorne yelling Bill Guerin's name a lot, and during that playoff run, when they traded him for Arnott, that was kind of a surprise at the time. And
I remember now going back in my brain, my beautiful mind brain, and I'm like, I didn't like Arnott at first because we traded for. I guess him for Billy Guerin.
Yeah, and Guerin was on the World Cup team in '96.
Right.
There's a pretty good highlight of him getting into it with Stevens because Stevens was on Team Canada.
That's interesting.
I mean, that's how highly regarded he was. And he was a hell of a player. He scored 40 goals, looks like 2-3 twice, 30-goal scorer multiple times. But the Devils went on without him. I mean, honestly, the bigger, better things. They won 2 cups after they traded him.
Dude, absolutely. Yeah. You know, they were struggling a little bit for a while there. You know, they were doing great, but they didn't just achieve it. You know, the Devils didn't even make the playoffs in 1996, the year they won the cup. That was such a...
I was at that last game, too.
Oh,
yeah. My dad loves telling the story of when I was 6, I think. Yeah, I was about 6 years old. When I finally realized the Devils weren't the champions, and I'm like a 6-year-old sobbing, and he's like kind of laughing at me.
Yeah.
You know?
Get used to this.
Like, this kid's also a Mets fan, so he's got a real hard road ahead of him.
Oh, God.
But yeah, that
Me
was.
too.
And I was at that game with the Senators when Tom Chorsky scored those goals and sealed the deal for the Devils that year in '96.
Right.
He was kind of part of that team that like should have done more and didn't. 97, they lost to the Rangers.
Right, heartbreaker.
And then they traded Guerin the next year. They still had some trouble getting out of the first round.
Speaking of the Rangers, real quick, I hear that Fox left the ice.
I saw, yeah.
Went right into the dressing room after falling on his shoulder.
Down here in our Devils Brocast studio, I have the Rangers-Islanders game on, still 5-1 Rangers with 4:35 left in the third. And
the house hasn't been set on fire yet.
No, it has not, thankfully. And, it looks like the Rangers are obviously going to win this game, which I don't like.
Well, we got 2 more minutes left here. We just want to thank Mike Ham again. Thank Chris for helping us out with some of our technical difficulties tonight. But I think we had a great time. Did you have a good time, Jim?
I had a great time. First show of many. I think this is going to evolve into a pretty cool thing here.
Right. Oh, that means that it's nearing the end of the show. We're getting it all in. It seems like everybody's going to be going to get their hot dogs, and we have the next show coming up.
The end of the game.
You've been listening to Jersey Devils Brocast here on Radio Garden State. Thanks for listening to us. And don't forget, keep New Jersey loud, everybody. Thank you.
Have a lovely evening, everyone.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week, Tuesday at 9 p.m.